So when you first start studying the freight broker business, trying to decide whether or not you're going to come into it, more than likely you'll notice that there's a freight agent option as well. And when you start to look at the freight agent option, sometimes you say to yourself, hey, maybe it would be a better idea to start off as a freight agent. And the reason why you say that is because, of course, being a freight broker comes with ownership of a business, everything that is required to start a business. So you're going to need a little bit of startup capital. Whereas with a freight agent, you don't need any of that because you're starting off as an agent working under the banner of a freight brokerage. And what we say to ourselves sometimes is, hey, this will give me an opportunity to come in and learn under an established broker, get my feet wet, get an understanding of how the business works without all of the overhead costs. I can come in and learn first. And once you go out and gain the knowledge, gain the experience that you need, now you feel better about starting your own freight broker business because you're starting on a firm foundation. And although this sounds good and briefs well, there are definitely some challenges to starting off as a freight agent. So I am going to identify some of those challenges today here in this video and let you make the decision on whether it's best for you to start off as a freight agent. All right, so you're a freight agent with no experience. That is problem number one. You don't have any experience. And when you don't have experience in the freight broker business, that means that you don't have a book of business established. You have not been working with clients. You have not been moving loads. And when you haven't done that, that means that most freight brokers, established freight brokers, or at least a lot of them in my experience, including me, don't want to work with freight brokers who don't have experience, or freight agents. Freight broker, freight agent, the word is interchangeable. The duties are interchangeable with the exception the freight broker owns the business and has all the responsibilities of business ownership. So in the absence of a book of business, most freight brokers, established freight brokers, the ones that you would want to work with, are not going to be interested in working with you because of that issue, not having that book of business, not having any clients that you've worked with, clients that are willing to move loads with you. And the reason for that is that they just don't want to go through all of the training that's necessary to train you. So a freight agent with no experience has the problem of getting on with an established freight brokerage. And the whole reason of you wanting to be on with established freight brokerage is to get that experience, a brokerage that actually has the infrastructure to support you, to move your loads without having any issues, without having all of these credit issues and things like that. If you don't have experience, then guess what happens? You have to go out and work with a lesser brokerage, maybe a newer freight brokerage that don't have the support that you need in place. And it really kind of works against you then. You're really kind of spinning your wheels, working with a brokerage, spending your time with a brokerage that you're really not learning a whole lot with. Problem number two as a new freight agent is oftentimes you don't get out of that experience what you expect. You expect to be able to go in and learn a whole lot from this freight brokerage so that you can take it on into your business. But what you soon realize is that it's not the hand-holding experience that you may have anticipated. Freight brokers, generally speaking, will let you know how they do business, kind of what the culture of the company is, and then give you the services that they provide as a brokerage, FTL services, LTL services, so forth and so on. That way, when you're talking to shippers, you know what you should emphasize, what you should highlight in conversation. And then it's off to the races. It's really not a whole lot of one-on-one time unless you start to earn that time by earning customers, moving loads, and then freight brokers are more interested in spending one-on-one time with you now because you've gone out and shown that you are serious, that you're willing to put in the work. So now they are willing to give you some of their time. Don't expect that there's going to be a whole lot of time up front. You have to be a producer in order to earn that time. But the reality is most freight agents are not quick producers. And the reason for that, or at least a part of it, is because they don't really understand the business just yet. And when you don't understand, you don't know quite what it is that you want to say or what you're talking about, you don't want to engage shippers as often as you should. And what happens when we don't engage shippers? We don't get customers. We don't get to learn how this business works. When it comes to learning the business, learning the freight broker business, it's about getting customers and moving loads. That's how you learn. And the more you do that, the more practice you get doing that, the more you know what to do when certain situations arise, and the more confident you become doing it. Problem number 3 is you're working for another freight brokerage. And for me, that just wasn't something that I wanted to do. I wanted to run and operate my own business, have the responsibility all on me. If I did great, it's on me. If I don't do so great, it's on me. So when you're working for somebody else, you have to do things according to how they want it done. And I had done that long enough. I had worked for over 20 years. So now it was time for me to not only work, but to work for myself. So I didn't want to work for anyone else. And I felt the best way to go about doing that was starting my own freight brokerage and forgetting about the freight agent option. For me, the freight agent option never came into play. And I can understand why people will look at the freight agent option and will even go in that direction, because it seems like it's a good way to get started, to get your feet wet, to get an understanding of the business. But far too often, in my opinion, it tends not to work out. So I steer in the direction of just starting out, grabbing the bull by the horns and starting my own freight broker business, because I figured that would be the best route for me. What you have to determine is which is better for you. Do you want to take all the responsibility on your own shoulders and let whatever happens and it all be on you? Or do you want to work for another freight brokerage and hope that you get the training that you need, the tutelage that you need in order to be a successful freight broker? I cannot guarantee you that you will be successful if you choose the freight broker route. What I can guarantee you is that you will have challenges all along the way. It will always be a new challenge, and only the strong shall survive. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. I certainly hope this information has been helpful. If you're interested in learning more about the freight broker business, I'll leave a free link in the description. It's my 5-video series, and I titled it How the Load Movement Process Works. It'll give you a chance to come into the office with me, and you can watch me on video as I move loads, talk to shippers and carriers to give you a better understanding of how this business works before you come into it. And then if you're interested in learning more about how we go out and find the shippers, the customers that we do business with on a daily basis, I'll leave a free video right here. So until the next time, I wish you the very best in your life and business. See you at the top, because the bottom is much too crowded.